Good evening, guys. I'm going to do another build diary, basically just kind of walk you through what I'm doing for my second Tradecraft. This is the winter one. I've got it kind of close to the end of the project, so the next 2 days are going to be pretty build intensive. I'm going to try to take a few seconds every so often and just kind of talk about what I did. So as you can see here, I have an old action figure of my husband's that was broken. It was a Lex Luthor power suit figure, and the head had come off, and I had asked him if I could have it. So what I did was I took a ping pong ball, half of one, and then I cut a slit so that I could kind of bend it, and then I kind of mashed it into where the head would be. And I'm going to make this into kind of a golden coppery golem, very Dwemer from Skyrim kind of a thing. So I like the idea of it having just kind of a dome versus a full face. And I was originally thinking I was going to turn this into a giant, but the suit is just too robotic. I cut off some wires that were here. I'm going to file down a couple of things, and I think I'm either going to put a gem or a skull or a crest here, so this looks a little less kind of modern. And then on the back, I may put another half dome or something on top of that so it'll look less modern. I don't really think I can do much about the boots, but we'll see. I thought for my Tradecraft I would have this, the miniature, be like a statue outside of a doorway, and there'd be another statue similar to this crumbled next to it on the other side of the doorway. And kind of this cool entranceway, and they can fight one of the golems and have another golem half destroyed. I had the best intentions of making a cast of the boot before I did this, but I didn't. So now I'm going to do that now that it's on the base, try to make enough of a mold that I can kind of make 2 feet to kind of match on the other side for the broken statue. And then I'll just have like another side of the ping pong ball like laying somewhere. The skewer is going to be, I think, like a warhammer. Ooh, I think I'm okay now. Sorry about that, guys. Ooh, still sound like a nose. Yes, so skewer, warhammer, smash, awesome. Probably going to make the warhammer head out of insulation foam because I can carve it to be the correct shape. The base is a Pathfinder Pawn large size base that I cut the ridge off that holds the paper, and I sanded it down a little, and then I put a giant washer in here, basically because there's so much weight up here. It needed something to really balance it out. And then I've put a little bit of play sand here. I'm going to add more like rubble and rock because I want this to be very ruined. And then I'm going to have some vines and things, I think, kind of half growing up the statue. So I'll put some plants and things too. And I think that's what I'm going to do for this. And also I am, for my chicken that I did, I made a bunch of molds of nails and screws, at least to the heads. I'm going to use those molds to make hot glue casts of screws and put them over in various joints to, you know, drive home the idea of it's more of a robot instead of like a super suit kind of thing. So I will check in with you later after I'm done being sneezy and crazy. Oh, also, one last thing. I have secured all of his joints with generous helpings of hot glue. See if I can get that to focus. Ooh, dog hair. So as you can see, any place his body turns, there's hot glue. So at the shoulders, the torso, the crotchular area, knees, ankles, elbows, wrists, they've all been hot glued so that he'll maintain his pose. The only place I was unable to do it nicely is he has this interesting turning thigh, but once I secured his feet in place, you're no longer able to manipulate that, so his stance is pretty strong. And as you can see, he's not turning anywhere. So just pick your most dynamic pose, play with it until you get something that looks really cool from several angles. It kind of looks like he's playing the air guitar there. Yeah. Just find a pose that looks great and then really jam the joints so that you know nothing is going to happen. I think that's it for a bit. Okay, so I'm a little bit later in the evening, and as you can see, I've got the initial kind of work done for my platform. This is 1 foot by 1 foot, which is the most you can do for the Tradecraft. And I have these steps going up on 3 sides. I thought that would be fun. Each of the steps are about 1 inch. Steps are dollar store foam core, 1/2 inch pink insulation foam. And then back here, I'm going to have this stone wall with a door built into it. Originally, I was going to have the statues back here, but I wanted to build out more stony structures. So I decided to have them kind of here at the main entranceway. So essentially, the golem will be here. The broken golem will be here. And then I'll have this kind of beautiful path where they can come up the door. And then they can fight up and down this area. He's just about done. Well, I mean, I still have to add all this stuff. I made castings of his feet and a hand. And I'm just going to patch these up with even more mold making material. This is just the like $20 Wonder Mold stuff you can get at Hobby Lobby. I love this stuff, lasts forever. So I'll just put more on to fill in the holes, and then I'll fill it with hot glue and maybe tinfoil or something, give it some structure, and make some pieces to have in kind of a pile here as a broken golem statue thing. I'm thinking I'm going to build out like a... So at this point in time, my phone ran out of room for me to record, so I missed recording some of these steps. Basically at this point, I drew in my details with a ballpoint pen, cut out all of my tiles out of fun foam, built out the back wall out of dollar store foam core, made the rocks out of plastic miniature packaging and tinfoil, and then added in my black bombing and first coats of paint. All right, and here is my completed Tradecraft. This is just a piece of pink insulation foam. The steps are cut in as dollar store foam core. This back is just dollar store foam core that I etched with a pen, a couple different layers of that. The rocky outcroppings are from miniature packs, the little plastic casing. It looks like mountains when you cut it out, and then covered in tin foil. Pencil shavings from my greenery, a couple plants inserted, and then we have our golem. This is actually an old Lex Luthor that my husband had given me that was broken, and I gave him a ping pong ball head, a couple of nails and screws and bolts, a new coppery paint job, and now he is in copper golem or brass golem, oxidized nicely, a little bit of bird poop for good measure. And then he's meant to stand there, and then there's the remains of another golem here. You can see some of the little brass bits in his feet, which I cast from the original action figure, and the glove. And then if you come over here, the remains of another head of one of them, all the way around to an oxidized door. This is really inspired by the Dwemer from Skyrim. Really loved that. So I can't wait to send this off to my recipient. Oh, and the little pieces are just fun foam, the really, really thin kind you get at the dollar store in the big packs, cut out and glued down. And then, of course, play sand. And then just a lot of paint. And then around the back is nothing special. I wanted it to look like the inside of a mountain. You can see it's just hot glue texturing here. Another oxidized door. And just to give it more interest, I boarded up the door. And that is it. So I'm extremely proud of this one. Kind of sad to send it off, but I really can't wait to see what he thinks about it. I really had to weight this base to make up for the fact how heavy this toy is. And of course I gummed up all of its joints so it can't move. On an old Pathfinder pawn base that I clipped off the edges to and weighted with a lot of washers under the hot glue. And that is it.